All right, so you punks keep asking. So here is the 4-inch portal on the Rubicon with the raked arms from Justin. These are the Gen 3s. Only reason I got them is because they were a good deal. One of the guys on the page was like, hey, I'm getting rid of some portals. And I was like, all right, send it to me. And he's like, okay, made me a good deal, so I bought them. I've always said putting portals on a Rubicon is kind of stupid because you're adding 50 plus pounds of unsprung weight per corner. And on a machine that only weighs 700-800 pounds, that is a lot of unsprung weight. It's not going to handle like a foiler, and it's going to be extremely slow and ridiculous and yada yada yada. Well, here's the reason I did it. Tarachi's coming out with some bigger and bigger sizes. Obviously, I love Tarachi and I support them a lot, so I want to be able to run them. If you run a 35-inch tire or bigger on a Rubicon, you start to break the rear drive shaft right inside the cup. It's designed to break there, and if you fix that, you start breaking rear diffs. The way to get around that is portals. The torque is multiplied right here, not right there, so it takes stress out the rest of your drivetrain. You've heard me say that 1,000 times on the Razor. That's the only reason the Razor worked. The problem with portals is they're heavy, and they remove your center of gravity, make the bike really wide, etc., etc., etc. But see, all my wheels are as skinny as they can be. That's a 6 plus 1-inch wheel. So I'm not going to be that wide. I got adjustable shocks, so even though I'm making it wider and heavier, I can adjust the dampening to help dampen out this massive chunk of unsprung weight I put over here. So, you know, it'll be okay. I'm probably not going to keep the setup very long. A bunch of my buddies already want this setup, so I'll probably test it out, get tired of it, and put the Rubicon back to stock so it's a little quicker. Hondas are slowing off already. If you add this much weight to them, they get even slower. These things are way overkill for a Honda, by the way. Look how big that shaft is, okay? Look how big the nut is. Look how big the hub is, the flange. Everything is so overbuilt for this thing. Even these brackets, you know, everyone knows who makes these. These are way overkill for a Honda, right? I had to arch them a little bit right here because my lift, they were hitting, so I had to clearance them a little bit, no big deal. But it's overbuilt to the hilt. So I really shouldn't have any reliability issues. I need to lock these bolts off. So things the Gen 3 improved on, I'll walk over here because I've got the rest of them sitting on the bench still. And by the bench, I mean the table. So it used to be this inner seal right here sealed onto your CV axle. And once you got some slop in your splines or your CV axles tore up, it would always leak. So what they did was they added a seal on both ends of it, and it seals onto the top gear itself, not on the CV axle. That's a Gen 3 thing. That's a real big improvement. I like that a lot. Also, here's some notes for you. I'll show you in a minute. But the plug on the bottom's nicer, way bigger shaft, obviously. I used to break the old ones on my Razor. Probably the small shaft would be fine here. They've got a new gasket material. They say it doesn't leak as bad. I always had a lot of leaks on my 4-inch boxes. These do have portal blood in them, which I don't know if it's a gimmick or not, but I've heard good things about it from a couple different people. The thing you got to watch out for is the nuts. So these are like a recessed axle nut that go up here. You got to make sure you get the right one. So these are coarse thread, and Honda OEM axles are fine thread. So let me show you the difference. It's pretty obvious. Fine thread. So I originally had the wrong ones of those. If you're going to get, like me, just go ahead and use the big studs because you're going to use big wheels anyways. You do have to run these special lug nuts if you do that, but it's worth it to have the big studs. You don't have to worry about them. Less likely to gall and everything. And also remember to order ball joints. You need 2 ball joints for the front to install in the portal brackets. So if you're going to do this, it's a good thing to know. Make sure you get the studs, the right studs. Make sure you get the right nuts. The ones that the P500 comes with probably would fit a Rubicon, but all the ones for like, you know, Turner axles and stuff don't. Obviously I'm running Demons, which is the same as a factory thread. The brakes are useless because there's a pinion brake on the rear on the Rubicon, and you can't do front brakes unless you run P700 or P500, either one, front calipers. I'm not going to do that probably because it's going to be so slow. The front brakes are going to be kind of irrelevant. Having rear brakes is all you need for water wheelies, right, to bring it back down. So I'll keep the pinion brake in the rear. It'll look nice not having any brake rotors, and it'll save me a little bit of unsprung weight. As for what I'm going to do with the front calipers, obviously I don't want to undo the lines, let the fluid drain out. I'll probably just zip tie them to the frame for now. If I end up keeping this for a while, maybe I'll put the front brakes on it, or maybe I'll just do a caliper to leave the bolt and nut on the banjo fitting, something like that. But yeah, so the bushings that he puts in here, these like kind of hard plastic bushings, we'll see how those go. Not super in love with that, but they do look strong. And I know these didn't have a ton of miles on them, but they look okay. So yeah, Gen 3 4-inch portals. I'm about to put this tire on it, and I'll show you how that looks. All right, so there you have it. That's a 33 on an 18-inch wheel on a 4-inch portal. Obviously, you can see This tire is 4 inches off the ground. That one's touching. It's a direct 4-inch lift. Pretty good comparison there. Ground clearance is going to be outstanding, even on a 33. 35s is going to be what I'll probably run, and most of the time I'll do 38s for shits and giggles a few times. Plenty of clearance from the Portal box with a 6+1 because it's an 18. If you had like a 6+1 14, you'd be needing to run a spacer. Bike stayed pretty freaking narrow. I like my rides really narrow, really skinny, better handling. I think more sex appeal, and it makes it a little more challenging to ride, and it makes it easier for you to work the bike. If you get too wide, it's hard to work the bike. So I like them skinny. So give me a little side view here. Really didn't make it all that much wider. Granted, the arm is at full down travel. It'll be a little bit wider once it squats. Obviously, math. I'm only going to show you this one in this video because I'm waiting on ball joints to do the front, so that'll happen later this week. I'll do a separate video. The front's going to be interesting because obviously it's going to impact the steering. You don't have a knuckle anymore. So they've got a tab welded on here for the steering, so that's going to be interesting. I'm going to replace that ball joint with this a factory Honda. I'm going to put a steel one there, a little extra strength. Yada, yada, yada. Should be good. So I'm going to do the other side now. Then I'm going to go ride it around looking like a opposite of a squatted truck, whatever you call that. Unpooping dog. But it looks pretty cool. And it's got crazy clearance. And honestly, this would not work without the rake. If you just did a 4-inch Portal with no rake, every single hole you'd be flipping over backwards. Honestly, I'm probably still going to have that very problem. But the little bit of rake is going to make a big difference. And, you know, put the cooler on the front, obviously. Make your girlfriend sit on the cooler on the front rack. And then you might have a chance of keeping the front end down. But it's pretty much going to be a two-wheel drive machine. The important thing to note is that I can run whatever tire I want now without worrying about the drive shaft, the diff, and pretty much the axles. It's going to be a very reliable setup. It's just going to be painfully freaking slow. So here's a good width comparison. So that's where I'm at now. And then I get out to here. Now the reason it's close is because I was running 2 sets of spacers, right, to get it even with the front, with the lift I have on the rear, and it being 6+1-inch wheels. So in all fairness, let's do some science for you guys. I know you guys love science. All you guys are just scientists. So for you anoraks that will inevitably ask, let's see the actual weight delta we added to this thing. So it's zeroed out. This is all the stuff we took off. We took off a cast iron knuckle, which is different on the 2020. The other ones were aluminum. We took off 2 wheel spacers. You might not have that on your setup. We took off a hub. Just to be extra thorough, we also took off this axle nut. And where's the cotter pin? Just kidding. Yeah, so that's what we took off. So that weighs 12.2 pounds. All right, 12.2. And now let's see how much we put back on. This will be astounding. Oh, this has got to weigh 60 pounds. I don't care what the website says. Either that or I'm getting weaker every day. So we're gonna put that on there. Get that kind of centered. And don't forget, 4 studs. Okay. So, 49.7. So, those of you who are good at science and math know that it's about 50. We took off like 12. So you do the math, we added 38 pounds of unsprung weight to each corner. That's a lot of weight, especially when you compound that with a big heavy tire and wheel. So by running Aztecs, which are the lightest tire, mud tire in the market, and the best, we're not making it too ridiculous, but this thing is gonna handle like dog shit.